Good evening. Welcome to another episode of The Jump Off, the All In Politics platform on the All In Network. I'm your host, Walter Damager, along with my main man,
At Rob Cooper Jr. on Instagram, not Twitter.
not
What's going
Twitter.
on, family?
Oh man, we got an exciting episode tonight, man. We're going to jump into the hip hop politics mode. We've had many um, conversations behind the scenes, man, talking about the influential aspects of how hip hop plays a part into everybody's lives through political platforms. Tonight, we have a very exciting guest with us tonight, man, from out of the Chi-Town, Chirac area, Mr. Erwin Carrera, better known as the CEO of DNA Beatz. 27,
Peace.
27 years in the game, man, a phenomenal DJ, man, coming straight from the school of hard knocks with a long list of admirable accomplishments he's achieved. He's done tracks with Wu-Tang, Fred the God's Son, Cannabis, Joel Ortiz, Chris Rivera, K Magnetic, and a host of others. Most importantly, man, he's the father of the incoming you here to bring us into the show. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to everybody our new host right now, Mr. DNA Beatz.
Peace. I
But
appreciate y'all even having me on there. Peace to all, man. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, brother Walt,
Oh, no
the
doubt, no doubt.
damager.
Look, listen. We thank you, man, for bringing us to the forefront of that banging beat we got bringing in here, man. A lot of people need to know about your works, man. Like you got some hot stuff out there.
Love. I appreciate that, man. Yeah,
Oh, definitely.
that was nice, man. I love the show. I've been following and looking at some of the interviews you guys have. Some very interesting stuff there too. And yeah, man. Any way I could help, vice versa on my side. It's all love.
yeah, well, DNA Beats. I tell you, man. Again, this is so fitting that you're joining us today because I think folks need to recognize it. I mean, we are all in politics, but we all come from the hip hop era, and really hip hop is what brought us to politics in many cases. And people, I know, listening to some of the music today, people may really forget, but really, hip hop has its roots going all the way back to the message, and even before that, in politics, at that time, before there was Facebook, before there was Twitter, Instagram, we didn't have any representation in black media. So I think, as Chuck D used to call hip hop, hip hop was called the black CNN. It was a way that
Yeah.
through hip hop rhythm, through storytelling, it was how we got our news, and it's how we got some truths that were unlocked, that would have been locked up from us, for over 400 years. So tell us, man, about you, man, your quest in hip hop, and what brought you to hip hop, and what keeps you going.
All right. Yeah. I mean, definitely. What the key points on that? What you said about it's a message. It is. It's art news. It's for the people, by the people. Um. To share, the knowledge and the gems to wake people up in the community. Back in the day when I was growing up, in the neighborhood, hip hop. And I know it sounds, cheesy to some, but it's the true story. Hip hop saved my life, and it saved a lot of other people's lives from me. I was in the neighborhood, in the hood, doing hood stuff. Grew up in there, gang banging, drug dealing, the whole shebang bang. And what got me out of it was two turntables and the microphone. You dig? And so, my dad, he always wanted to help me out, and gave me an outlet, and how do you say, like, a way out, to spend your energy in a positive way. And but like the equipment was so expensive, man. And like he actually saved up his bread, and he took me off the streets. He's like, "Hey, what I gotta do to get you off the street, son?" And I said, "Man, I like to DJ, do music." He said, "You know what?" He took me, and and he bought me my first pair of turntables. And after that, I left the streets, and just started doing music and DJing, and then doing parties. And just one day I picked up the vinyl, and I looked at the grooves, and I'm like, how do they make this? I'm interested. And then 4 years after that, I got into production. So yeah, yeah, and then stuff like that. It was a rough journey, but you know,
Well, that's cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
hip hop saved my life, basically. Yeah, so yeah.
that's good. Well, you ain't the only one on here that got his start in hip hop. There's another guy by the name of Walt the Damager. So, Walt, man, you tell us a little bit about your start.
Oh man, you want to take it back into and DNA can probably he'll enjoy this one because every now and then I'll go onto his page and I call it Rec Room Play. Back in the day when we was rapping, coming up under the likes of Black Thought when they started, we was at the going to the Black Lily with like I said, Black Thought, the Jill Scotts, 100X, Ram Squad, all these guys back in the day. We all shared, the same formalities, man. But we was the lower kids on a totem pole, man. We did shows, try to get our notoriety. One of the guys, Ellie Squared from 100X, used to do our music. We used to have a good camaraderie with 100X from Mustafa, Bad News, and Round Mound and Lux and all them other guys, man. It was a great time. And even back then there was a renaissance with hip hop because it went from, like Rob, you were saying earlier, with the message, and then there was horrorcore and hardcore. It just metamorphosized into a whole genre of different type sounds and qualities that came with music, that we gravitated to and we loved it. Now with Philly, most differently from Chicago, you always had your turf wars. You always had your one section of the city is better than the other section of the city, which sometimes they would have, negative impact and conflicts. So DNA out there in Chicago, I don't know if it was the same as in Philly, but there was a lot of turf uh, skirmishes going on with, our sound is better than yours. And then um, we also had a conversation about the PMC, the music conferences went back in the day, man, that will also try to bring people into the forefront. Why don't you give your take on, how it transcended and metamorphosized over the years?
Well, it, man, it was good in the beginning. It was good. And then just like everything else, politics, presidency, everything got corrupted, watered down, and just yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just I seen it. I seen the transitions. It just it like anything else, it just gets corrupted, and from the beginning, where it was pure. And there still is pureness, but it's really hard to find. And you got to find that good plug in that source, or experiences of your experiences. But it's going to cost you to see the right path. But yeah, it's it ain't like it used to be right now. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because just kind of looking at black music in general, and I tell everyone, my subscription to Apple Music or to YouTube Music, the streaming services are as important to me as cable. I will pay those bills, quicker than I'll pay my cable bill. But and joking on that, but looking back, listening back, I have an opportunity to just kind of listen back in the music and match it up with some of the errors. So, in the late 60s, early 70s, you had the civil rights movement transitioned into the Black Power movement. And you saw that the music reflect that, with Curtis Mayfield. Even on the jazz side, you had, Miles Davis, you had Roy Ayers and those guys coming through, making a lot of like conscious music.
Legends,
coming in the beginning of the 70s. And then you see, to your point, things get bastardized. All of a sudden, out of nowhere comes this disco, this disco stuff. And to each their own. But they kind of what it was watering down, something, the way this is Rob Cooper's opinion. I see that it was watered down and packaged for commercial for the masses through disco. And then, it promoted drugs and all that other stuff. Then in the 80s, that kind of, flowed into that part. Then in the mid 80s, hip hop comes back, and then really the golden era of hip hop, what I call is around 85, between 85 and like 95, where kicked off with Public Enemy, Run DMC. They're making conscious music again, heading into the 90s, and then all of a sudden around 95-ish, the shiny suits were broken out. I look at that as kind of like the disco. I mean, they discoed rap. And then you just see it, you see it, kind of move forward. Then when the Trump era came in, more recently, I think his politics forced, and also what's happening in the news, forced some of our hip hop artists of today to say we got to rethink this and we have to reimagine this. It was almost to a point where I think just this past year during this pandemic, I heard something like Public Enemy at one point, 1 week. I think this is around when the protests was going on, was like number one on the streaming. And I'm not talking about their new stuff. They were like a lot of the music from the 80s, and F the Police from NWA was like streaming like number one on the streaming charts. So it's promising to hear that this young generation now is starting to yearn for some more conscious hip hop. What's your thoughts on that, DNA?
It's interesting because you had said about disco. I just want to go back real quick. Because hip hop has a lot of disco influences in it. And yeah, it depends on how you use it, but it's all together for it to transform. Now, the politics side with that, with the streaming services coming back, it's like, it's really sad with hip hop. I mean, a conscious hip hop, because like I said, it was a message for the people by the people, but it's not going to get sponsored to the masses unless something happens politically for it to be used.
Right.
Or if somebody dies, which I can't stand that. It takes a hip hop brother to pass away for everybody to play their music. I don't get that one right there. And that's not going to be me. I'm gonna let you know right now, but
that's right.
And I need to change. We need to change that. But yeah, it's really interesting that question with the whole thing. But like it should be streamed. But then I was just talking to that with Brother Walt about that. Remember, was it yesterday or the day before, about the people how they just follow waves and trends. Really, there's no message no more, or no nectar of knowledge passing through that. So it's just
right.
Pretty interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, because one of the other things I think that we were talking about as well is the continuity, like how it actually phased out the connections with the movements, going back on what Rob had said with the golden era, and not to take away from disco. Let us not confuse the audience by saying that we dislike disco. What Rob,
No,
I think,
well,
is trying
I
to come
don't.
across.
But, yeah.
Right. What I think it was lost is that it was a message that wanted you to drive home the fact that, be black, be proud. You have understanding of yourself, self-awareness. You have an understanding of your political grounds. You have an understanding of your educational, environmental, and economic plan to, put forth for you and your family and your community. I think with the disco, it gave you a sense of, okay, let's go party. Let's be more leisure. Let's back off the fact of we still need to be these soldiers and warriors marching on to be these patriarchs and matriarchs of the community. And I think back to what Rob had said, once we got into that shiny suit era, which is reminiscent a little bit of, let's party a little bit. I
like
think
right.
I think what happened is people became too comfortable with partying and not protecting. And now we see a lot of that filtering because, like I said, with the music and politics, you got that message like, yo, protect your woman, protect the children. Now is out here with the message in the music is they calling girls hoes and bees. They're shooting kids. There was a street code where the guns wasn't allowed to be poured up on on women. And
facts.
children.
A lot of street codes got broken, and it's not the same. I remember growing up. Not to cut you off, Brother Walt. I remember growing up in the neighborhood, my neighborhood, if you were the op going inside and you were with your family, they wouldn't touch you. They'll give you a pass, what we call it. You got a pass. Get the hell out of here. Now,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
the respect is there's no more respect, values, code, etc. off that, which changed, which the disco era also bought drugs, but also old school hip hop, it talked about some drugs too because it was in the neighborhood. They didn't promote it as much like that. They did it subliminally with beautiful vocabulary poetry to let people know, but it existed. Like I was telling you that last time, some of my vocabulary that I learned from Wu-Tang growing up, they helped me learn so many different words that I had to go look up in the dictionary, like what they talking about.
Right, right.
And but they just dumbed it and simplified it, dumbed it down to the masses because now it's not about that, it's entertainment, which then you got to figure out who's controlling the entertainment.
Right, right.
So
well, if you even look at let's talk about Wu-Tang. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I want to say Wu-Tang, they came out with their album, was it 92-ish, 93-ish? Was it the one with Cream on it? Was that 92, 93? And then
I believe so.
Okay, and then they didn't come out with another album until 97-ish, I believe. Which is kind of unusual in the hip hop world. It was where folks are pumping out albums every year. Why do you think? And I know everyone has their solo projects and things like that, but Wu-Tang itself was a brand. And why do you think that it took 4 years, which seems like a generation in time when it comes to hip hop?
Well, when you're dealing with a bunch of different personalities, prima donnas, no pun, but there's so many. I had my fair share of recording groups and stuff, and I seen behind the scenes, and I seen some of the behind the scenes from the brothers from the clan, and they didn't really get along, and there was a lot of other stuff going on behind that, from what I was reading. But it's hard to get a group together. It's very hard to make a project with a bunch of people. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
A lot of personalities.
It's very, very, very difficult. A lot of personalities, a lot of divas, a lot of, But I hear what you're saying though.
Yeah, that's probably why. That's probably the reason why we can really in the history of hip hop, now going back to about 40 years now, maybe close to 50 almost. Where you could count on your two hands how many actual successful hip hop groups there were. There were tons of hip hop artists that came through the scene, but really when it comes to like groups, you can pretty much count them all off. Who they are.
Right.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because if we're looking at groups, we're looking at something of three or more, right? Like we can look at a duo.
Correct.
I mean, I wouldn't consider that a group.
Right, and that's doing Jaws effects type of
yeah.
Exactly. If you're looking like three or more, of course you're going to see like Wu-Tang and even with the what you call that Digital Underground and
Sex Packets.
Like groups like that.
Yeah,
they didn't really
Tupac was carrying their crates, right? Yeah,
right.
So exactly. It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's the history of it.
Jurassic 5.
Jurassic
5 was another. That was another good group.
Yeah.
De La Soul.
De La Soul. Yeah, beautiful songs. Yeah. But now since we're talking about that, about action and selling and entertainment, what sells more? When you're watching Netflix, do you want to watch an action movie or do you want to watch a drama movie? Which is all different subjects, right?
Right.
But what sells more? Action movies. So then they're just poisoning our people with because it sells. Sex sells. Violence sells. It sells, and they know that. So that's why most of the stuff that you hear now is not to change the subject, but that's
you're right on it. You're right on it, and I want to keep you on that. When you look at the beginning of what we call the genre called gangster rap. Okay, it started out with F the police and cop killer, right? You know, those type of, right, which the government frowned upon. In fact, you know, anyone could go watch the NWA movie, but that is a true piece in there where the police actually went up and arrested uh, the artist in that at one of their concerts. I forget what city they were in. They actually went in there and arrested them. So now, how did the government go from locking gangster rappers up to promoting gangster rap?
and working with them.
and the funny thing
police is real.
That's what we were talking about yesterday.
Right.
We were just talking about that yesterday.
Tell us what you were talking about. Tell the people what you were talking about, Walt.
Well, actually, we were talking about COINTELPRO and how going back now, you notice how the government now is, well, I ain't gonna say the government's allowing it, but if you look at a lot of these Netflix, like Billie Holiday versus the United States and the Fred Hampton movie, it's starting to give you an insight how the FBI was infiltrating a lot of these black movements to find out what was actually going on under the behest of J. Edgar Hoover, who was afraid of the black movement because his own words, he stated, we want to be prepared and we want to annihilate the rising of a black messiah.
Right.
His one only fear, just like majority of the people at that time, was the coming together of the black race. They know that for 400 years of oppressing black people and doing these atrocities to them, that they feared that if blacks or people of color became a major force to come against them, they would be in trouble. So they started injecting people into hip hop. They started injecting people into politics. They started injecting people into our race, essentially, to infiltrate, to give the information back to the FBI so they can trace and monitor us.
That's a very good point. Go ahead, Dana.
No, it's good. It's just pretty deep. The rabbit hole goes pretty deep on that one, man. It's infinite information, like it's corruptions, and it's war, and they study it pretty good. Your opposition has to study and shut people's mouths because they understood that it's a message to the masses. Radio is a tool, and it's a power tool, and they know they can shut it down and change the subject of the platform. And that's what they're doing right now. Like I was telling Brother Walt, they shut the minister's page down. Anybody who have a big following or has an opinion, which I thought we have freedom of speech, which we really don't, but and they censoring, so now it's censorship. So then it's like, what are you afraid of? And
that's right. Well, that's why in the opening of every show I say at Rob Cooper on Instagram, not Twitter, because they shut me down. And it's really because I dare, because I'm on Twitter, dare to challenge white supremacy. And it is funny because, but the news is, they'll make the news out that, they're shutting off one or two white supremacists and taking them off, but they're taking they're silencing far more folks who challenge white supremacy on Twitter than they actually do white supremacists. That's just my opinion. And I'm sure if they did any research, matter of fact, there is some research that was out. There actually was some research done on that showed, at least I think it was for Facebook and Twitter, that they silence more black people than they do that, any other folks, through Facebook jail or through Twitter.
They throw them in jail. How you like that one?
Isn't it amazing? Isn't that amazing? And again, so we've talked about that. So who decides? Who decides that? Who makes that decision of who has a public, who could be a public mouthpiece or who doesn't? Who makes the decision when it comes to hip hop of who lives and who becomes a billionaire? Who makes that decision is the question, that I would love to hear the answer to.
Well, we man, like one of my elders told me, he said it best, we are our own poison, and you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not uniformed and aligned together, because if we were, and it's always going to be the art of war, like the book. it's they, you know, I mean, we're more than them. They can't, but they know there's a way to manipulate and conceive the other side. So why not scramble? And that's what they're doing. If you think about it, you know, my opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. And let's just talk about hip hop, and let's just talk music in general. If people say music is from the soul, and my son Elijah Cooper, who's the founder of All In Network, check his All In Network politics. Excuse me, All In Network sports show out. All you do is go over to YouTube, and when you get to YouTube, go to All In Network, and you'll find all his latest his latest shows on there. And Walt, when they get over there, man, what should they do when they get to the All In Network YouTube page?
You know what you do all this time. You grab the latest devices you have at that time that you can get into it to get on a social media platform, and grab it, turn around, do a 360 dunk slam on it, and smash that subscribe button, baby brother.
That's right. That's right. You smash that subscribe button. Also like, and also share. Those he and Mike do an outstanding job covering sports. We got a big show. We're taping this today on All-Star Weekend or All-Star Night for the NBA. So by all means, go over to YouTube and get that information in sports and politics as we come to you, and we continue to give you the voice to the voiceless. But Elijah Cooper said to me last week, we talked about Meek Mills, and he said, Dad, something about Meek, he said, he just don't sound this like he was when he first came out. And the first thing I said, well, that's because hip hop really talks about your struggle. And Meek was hungry back then, when he coming out of North Philly, he was able to talk about that because he knew it firsthand. Well, now he's not hungry anymore. You know what I mean? So I think he's doing some good things outside of hip hop, working with, criminal justice reform and things like that. But it does come a time, when your brand is made based off of your struggle. When you're not struggling anymore, you really can't talk about it.
True. He already ate some good plates.
he's eating good now, Yeah, and I think that desire. So and that's the piece too. I tell you what, I think Jay-Z struggles with that. I think I think he's struggling with that. I think struggling with success, really trying to stay relevant as far as on the hip hop game. He's definitely a successful businessman and on the business side of it.
Big mogul,
yeah. I could tell you his CDs, his last couple CDs that he came out didn't move me quite like Reasonable Doubt and some of the other ones when you could tell he was hungry.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell. I mean, and you could tell, just like that Coming to America 2 movie. I'm just saying, man, you could tell when this, it's not.
Right.
Nobody you could tell when someone's not trying no more. They're just doing it, and you're just like, oh, okay, like this is what you're gonna give us. Like, yeah, okay, right. You're not hungry, you're not trying no more. The fire is not there no more. So then now you have to look at different outlooks or how to keep the people entertained. Right. And now you're doing a washed down stuff, and you're like, come on, man, that's not you, man. What y'all doing? Right. Who's in charge? Yo, who's in charge over here, man?
Right.
And then a lot of yes mans in the studios and yes sirs in the video shoots, and no one's really like saying, hey, man, this is basura, it's garbage, man. Like what happened to that real wingman on the side? Let you know to keep you in check.
Right.
But the divanness and the money got to their head where I don't gotta listen to nobody.
Right.
You know who I am, and then it becomes.
And it's interesting, and that's why I think you won't never hear me say this, but you hear a lot of other folks say with Biggie Smalls and Tupac being two of the greatest rappers alive, and they're definitely up top that. But here's the deal: they put together maybe, I think, combined maybe 5 albums together. I mean, combined, and they were hungry, and then they just died. You know what I mean? So that's what people have. That's the go-to, right? There's not going to be a coming to America for those guys. You know what I mean? They can't come back from that, right?
Yeah,
You know,
I don't
and,
mean to laugh, but you know what I
no,
mean.
no, no, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
they're not coming back from that. So you know, the government, which I think was responsible for instigating, you know, situations with them and instigating the beef. Uh, you know, it's now will continue to make money. The streaming services and the record companies will continue to make money off of their best work, and they don't ever have to worry about those guys putting out any weak rev because they're not here to tell that story. Unfortunately,
Exactly.
Right. Rest in peace, man, to both of them. And you know, like some of the stuff we were talking about that too. That Biggie's joint. Puffy made a Biggie rap on a song that he want to rap on. Uh, I have I have trouble sometimes with some of these artists. Like they don't want to rap on certain beats.
right?
But like Biggie didn't want to rap up in that hypnotized joint, and look how that
Yeah.
went.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, so you know, he was like, "Oh, I don't want to rap on him." You know,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, you know, but I mean, like I say, it's a thin line with entertainment, and you know, but then it's always an agenda depending on who's on the other side funding
That's right.
the. You
That's
know what I'm saying?
right.
You
That's
know, they
right.
use it as a tool.
And one last point on that, it's no coincidence that the hip hop music kind of changed to that, and also you saw more corporate prisons being created, private corporate owned prisons, and the money flowing directly to that piece. That's another subject for another time. But DNA Beatz, man, we really appreciate you joining us, man. Talk to us about any new projects that you got before we close out.
Oh man, first of all, thank y'all for having me and spending the time with me. Doing this is dope. Yeah, I got the new joint that I just dropped is with the rest in peace Fred the Godson. That's out right now. It's called Rock a Party. It's on all media platforms, iTunes, Pandora, etc. That's what I got new right now. I'm working on a beat tape called Nikuya Part 3, which means Japanese. I'm sorry, butcher in Japanese. Sorry about that. I'm dropping that Nikuya 3 and a lot of whole other stuff. A drum kit also that I'm dropping. Monsters in the Box Part 3. I'm dropping that one too soon. And just continuing to feed my hunger for music and good positive vibes. So yeah.
Indeed. You got a project with Jafet too, right?
Yes, Jafet. See, it's just so much stuff. Thank you, brother. Yeah,
Mhm.
Jafet. Yeah, we were talking about doing an EP. Me and brother Jafet, and that's coming out soon. We're in the works. I actually just finished mastering a song. I'm sorry, a whole album called Phantom Menace. That's dropping. I just finished it today. Actually, I just bought a small radio right now today just to hear the little speakers. Because and the car test. You always got you can't forget the car test. And yeah, that's going to drop pretty soon. On that, appreciate you bringing that up. Thanks a lot, brother.
Oh, no problem. Like I said, you also probably want to give them your handles too, where they can get at you contact info, in case somebody probably want to get a beat or probably want to get some merch because you know you got that merch burning too.
Oh
You dig?
yeah. The UDIG, yeah. I got the UDIG shirts. Check it out. That's UDIIG. You can pound the hashtag, it'll come up. I got UDIG shirts on DNABeatz.com. That's DNABEATZ.com. I want to pull it up. I also got masks, some face masks that I had. Let me just show you real quick. I don't know if you can see it right there. It's a
Nice. Yeah, I can see it.
on the
Absolutely.
camera. There you go. There you go.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
That's
All
my
right.
logo. It's the doctor logo right there.
Right.
Yeah, you throw that boy on right there. And then I got the shirts, the UDIG shirts. I have them on me. But yeah, it's DNABeats.com. I got all the merch on there. Appreciate everybody, supporting and stuff like that. Definitely.
Well, we're happy to have you, man. We hope that you come back.
Oh man, I would love to come back.
Great.
It's an honor, man. I know we could talk about some more stuff too if we want to, man. But yeah, we're gonna
Absolutely.
get it in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. This is just one version of a many plethora of conversations we're going to have to move forward in this journey.
Definitely.
Good. All right. With that being said, man, this is another exciting episode of the real to real to jump off the All In Politics platform on the All In Politics Network. I'm your host, Walter Damager.
And I'm at Rob Cooper Jr. on Instagram, not Twitter.
Yeah, so stay alive, man. Like I said, each one teach one. Make sure we keep that positive message out there, man. Uplift all kings and all queens, man, and make sure we gotta raise the kids, man, because they are our future. And with that, I bid you guys adieu.
Facts.
Peace.
Peace.
You did. Salute.